Uh, Call to order the January 9th, 2024 Board of Directors meeting for the South Granville Water and Sewer Authority. I appreciate everyone being here tonight and thank our board members. We have a couple of people that, due to the weather, is running a little bit late, but should be here shortly. And if you will, we'll go to a roll call, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilperson Daniels.
Here.
Commissioner Way.
Present.
Commissioner McLean.
Present.
Commissioner Karen.
Present.
Mayor Linda Jordan. Mayor Pro Tem Kaczynski.
Present.
And Commissioner Mr. Gooch.
Present.
All right.
And now, if you will, we'll go to our invocation by Mayor Pro Tem Georgiana Kaczynski, Vice Chair.
Please join with me. Dear Lord, thank you so much for getting us here safely. Let the rest of our board that is on their way travel safely to us. Please protect all the South Granville employees that will be called on tonight in this weather, our first responders, and anybody that has to travel on their way to and from home or work. Thank you for the rain. We needed it. It would have been nicer if you had it a little less, but we accept it just the same. Help us to make the best decisions for the Sigwassa customers and the municipalities we represent. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen. And Commissioner Robert Way is going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag
of the
United States of America
and to the
republic
for
which stands one nation under God, indivisible,
with
liberty and
justice for all.
Look what the wind blew in, literally.
Yes.
That's been only challenge.
All right, we'll move on to item 5, adjustments. Is there any adjustments to the meeting agenda? Not hearing anyone offer any adjustments to the agenda, I call for approval of the meeting agenda. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it, motion carries. All right, review and approval of the minutes from the December 12th, 2023 board meeting. I trust everyone's had opportunity to read over the minutes. Is there any questions or discussion on the minutes?
There was an adjustment that I made under section 15 closed session. It said, okay, and it's been corrected. I'm sorry. I sent it to our clerk and she corrected it.
Okay,
So I have no adjustments.
no adjustments. All right, do I hear a motion to approve the minutes
I
from
make a
December
motion
12th?
that we approve the minutes of December 12th.
We have a motion and do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. Any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it, motion carries. Public comments. Do we have anybody email any in?
Not at all, sir.
Okay, we didn't have anybody here sign up tonight, so we'll move on to our board discussion items. And I believe we had one item for discussion, is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And,
I think Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chair, I think it's easier for me just to address the board from this position here versus at that desk over there. So the question came up about the water distribution system improvements at the Lake Road Booster Pump Station. So if I may, I'd like to just kind of review some of the background and give an update on where we stand on that project. So during 2022, the Sigwassa City of Creedmoor service area was analyzed in the newly created water distribution system hydraulic model. I think all of you remember the analysis that we did of that distribution system, and we are continuing to do that modeling throughout the rest of the Sigwassa service area especially with the help of the funding that we got from the AIA grant that was received this last year. So we're continuing that, as well as creating models for our sewer system. At the conclusion of that model, we had recommendations that came from the modeling and the analysis that we did. And one of the recommendations was to look at the booster pump station located at Lake Rogers in the city of Creedmoor, in terms of whether was it functioning properly. That's where we introduced chlorine to that station to boost it. During our analysis of the hydraulic study, we found that we had some low chlorine levels throughout the distribution network in the city of Creedmoor. So we focused on that booster station, and we found that it was not operating correctly. So we basically, after that point in early 23, commissioned McGill and Associates basically to evaluate what was needed to be done at that booster pump station. And we are doing an upgrade to that booster pump station by adding 2 new pump skids, basically with new equipment, new pumps, new technology, and SCADA equipment, which will actually be connected back to our water plant for controls. That was the goal, and that was the design. Earlier at the end of last year, of 2023, we issued requests for proposals for that project. This was an identified CIP project that we had, project number 101-09, at an estimated cost of $225,000. We opened bids in December, and so McGill Associates made a recommendation to me about the last week of December during the holidays in terms of qualifying the bidders that we had for that. So we do have a low bidder for that project, and my intent is to bring that project to the board for award at the February board meeting. If the board approves that contract, then we'll issue a notice to proceed, and we'll move forward with that project. And I anticipate 90 to 120 days we'll be done with that project. So just in time for the June-July period, when the weather heats up, we should have that project installed and under control. And that's a great improvement for that distribution network over there. So if there are any questions or comments, I'll be happy to answer that.
Thank you so much. I
You're welcome.
appreciate that detail.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And if we don't have any more board discussion items, no one else has anything they want to bring forward at this time, we'll move on to item number 9, our system development fee policy draft. And the give you a little background, the South Carolina Water and Sewer Authority's allocation policy was originally adopted on February 14th, 2006. Subsequent allocation policy amendments were approved by the Board of Directors on May 8th, 2007, February 12th, 2008, and on September 13th, 2016. Saguasa's allocation policy was developed to manage efficiently and effectively the distribution of scarce water and wastewater resources for the benefit of the entire Southern Granville County region. The allocation policy describes certain timetables for requiring parties to pay the system development fees associated with allocations. This item was discussed at the December 12th, 2023 Board of Directors meeting. The Board of Directors tabled this item until the January 9th, 2024 Board of Directors meeting. Following the 12/12/23 Board of Directors meeting, the Executive Director reviewed the draft policy presented at the December 12th meeting and determined that an outdated draft had been attached mistakenly to the related legislative memo. Following the additional review and discussion between the Executive Director and Saguasa's attorney, an updated corrected draft policy is attached. Note, the board approved system development fee policy will replace the existing Saguasa allocation policy. And with that, I'm going to turn this over to our Executive Director. Or did we turn it over to the attorney?
Well, I'll take a stab at it first. So again, thank you, board members this evening. I think a critical point, as the board chair discussed, is that the previous meeting of which I was unable to attend, there was some discussion back and forth about the outdated draft that was attached. So I apologize for that error The attorney and I have been working on this project for over a year, and I think Jim, 35 or 40 different revisions that we've
It's
had
been a few.
back and forth as we're working through this challenging project to get us in a good position, of course, to follow state law, but also to understand SIGWASA and how we've been doing the allocation policy. So it's been quite a dance as far as the coordination here. We have a good policy in front of us now, calling the system development fee policy, and I think it's important that we make the distinction between allocation versus system development fee. So we're going to start using system development fee policy. Excuse me for the message on screen, so that we're clear on what we're talking about here. Additionally, during recent discussions, I thought it was important just to highlight in the note that it's such an amendment, if you will, as far as what we're presenting here for the system development fee policy, that it's best just to state that this system development fee policy will replace in total the allocation policy that has been in place and most recently updated in 2016. I do not want to read through everything in terms of the analysis and the examples, because I know that the board has had an opportunity at the last meeting to have some conversation. But of course, we want to drill down on any questions or comments that the board may have, especially with Exhibit 3, the proposed SIGWASA system development fee policy, which starts on page 28. So if you'd like to turn to page 28, that's where the system development fee policy starts in terms of the draft. I won't read the recommendation at this point until you get past any Q&A that we have here. And Jim, is there anything further that you would like to say before we get into discussion here on this item?
No, I think you got it covered.
Okay, very good. So, Mr. Chair, back to you, the board members, in terms of any questions or comments about the SDF policy that we have in front of you in terms of the draft, which is Exhibit 3 on page 28.
Okay, has everyone had the opportunity to read through this? Since it was at the last meeting. Does anyone have questions?
Okay, so I have got a message from our a member of City Freeborn municipal staff that they feel that it gives the executive director the approval denier of any allocation request and the determiner of the time frame for which a subdivision and an allocation will expire for failure to use it. But there is no expiration date on this. Am I correct?
I think that first, I would like to answer this way. There's a recommendation this evening with this document that recommends the board consider pushing this document out to the other municipalities which we serve for no less than 30 days to receive comments. So I think that's important, first of all, to know that we are going, if the board approves it, we'll send this document out, collect those comments, and be able to parse through those to see what we have in relationship to the SDF policy. So back to your question now, I think one of the challenges that we have, and one of the things that we don't want to get away from, is the coordination that we have with the municipalities. Okay, we are a separate entity as a utility. We understand that the municipalities have their own development fee process, if you will. We're still going to be in coordination with them on that. Based on the state law, as far as my understanding, there's a different way that we just have to administer the SDFs that we have here. But there's still an opportunity to work in coordination with the municipalities when it comes to the planning efforts that are involved here, because that's a key part here. As you know, as a utility, we support the efforts of the municipalities with our utilities. So we have to be in sync to understand what is happening. And we see this right now with the town of Stem, for example, where we have a couple of subdivisions that are interested in building. So we have to have that broad look, that understanding of coordination. We're looking at capacity at the same time. And what is available. So again, I hope that provides you with some information. I'm not sure if it's completely answered your question, but suffice to say, I anticipate there are going to be additional questions from the municipalities, especially the planning staff, regarding this. And I'll be able to focus on answering those questions once we see them in the writing. And then we can address that and present that back to the board as we parse through that when we get this information back. Is that sufficient at this time?
So if we're sending this to the municipalities to review for 30 days, we're not adopting it tonight. We're gonna wait 30 days?
My recommendation was to seek comments.
Okay.
The board can do as the board decides. If the board would like to approve the policy this evening, that's up to the board or any other recommendation. Correct, Jim?
The only thing I would say is that if we get a request that we had to act on, which I don't think we can't slow one down long enough to let the municipalities have time to comment, but if we have a request, we can't approve it, I don't believe, under our existing allocation policy because it doesn't comply with state law. So we would have to approve it substantially in accordance with what we've written, which is in accordance with state law. So that's the only thing I would say. But I believe you can slow down any requests long enough to give the local governments time to comment on it.
And to that point, we do have some of these developments in the pipeline as far as looking at capacities and on the verge of talking about allocation or SDFs. But I think the time is right that we are afforded that time, basically, whether it be 30 days or 45 days here. Should the board want to seek those comments, I think that we could do that. And I don't think that we're going to lose a lot of time as we're moving through this process. So,
But the process that the municipalities have used so far, the municipalities process piece, that's not changing.
I'm not changing anything that municipalities are doing. You have the authority, obviously, to approve subdivisions and
Right.
land.
And then we send it to you, and then that's when this.
That's correct. And I plan, from my position in the organization to continue that coordination to understand that. As most of the board members are aware, there are challenges to capacity in certain areas of our service area. Hence the reason for the I-85 improvement project. So whenever we get a project in on the books, we have to start looking at that and coordinating with the community to understand what is being built. Do we have the capacity? And remember, board, that if there is greater demand than what capacity is, then developers have to look at what infrastructure they are willing to install to meet that at the same time. So that's part of what goes on here as well for this coordination.
And all of these changes are brought about because of changes in state law. Is that correct?
That's what I.
That's right.
So we have to be compliant with state law. And that means we can't continue to do business the way we were doing business. And we have to make sure everyone's aware and they're on board with the new policy.
And that's the reason for this change.
That is
because
correct.
We have to become compliant.
Yeah.
It's not just something that we dreamed up.
Yeah, no, it's not something that we dreamed up as a board or Jim and Scott got together and decided this is what we're going to do. It's brought about by state law and compliant with state law. Does anybody got comments,
I think it's at a good
questions?
time. Yeah. I think it's at a good time.
I'm sorry.
I think it's at a good time for us to do this now too, with waiting on the I-85 sanitary sewer project. It gives us time to get adjusted to this new policy before the other stuff starts.
That's a very good point. In fact, considering it is a change in policy, there's going to be some procedural changes at the same time in allowing us to kind of walk this down the roadway here on a couple of subdivision projects and single family homes will be very beneficial for the administrative staff here to be able to understand how we do this. A little bit of coordination. And I know that you've read the new law and there's some nuances in that too, as far as how we have to introduce payment, when we take payment, those types of things. So. Mr. Gooch, I just want to point out that again on, excuse me, page 16, I do have a recommendation for you. I can't scroll the screen at this point, but my recommendation is the board members approve the draft SEGWASA system development fee policy and request the executive director submit the draft SDF policy to each SEGWASA member governing body for their review and comments for a period of no less than 30 days. So of course, it's up to the board to determine what that framework is. Less than 30 days, more than 30 days.
So what you're
The
asking,
recommendations, you know that. You have one at the bottom of page 15 and then another one on 16.
I have a recommendation, but then there's the executive director's
Okay,
recommendation.
all right.
So
Our task before us is to decide if we want to approve
The draft.
the draft tonight. And once it's been sent out and we have comments in there, if there's revisions, then we'll vote on the final at a later date within either February or March. Is that correct?
that is correct.
Okay. All right. So do I hear,
I make a motion that we approve the draft of Seguasa's system development fee and send it to each Seguasa member governing body for their review and comments for a period of no less than 30 days. Second.
we have a second? Is there any discussion on the motion? If not, we'll go to the vote.
One question, do the comments and have to be in writing? To you or to us?
I'm going to treat this parallel to what we did with a recent resolution update, where I actually asked for written comments back by a certain date directly to me.
Okay.
So that I have that, so that I can bring that in summary and review those, and present those to the board, should they want to see that in total.
Okay.
Anything else? Then we'll go to the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it, motion carries. Now we get the fiscal year 23-24 financial software board of contract.
Are you Richard Bonner today too?
Richard was unable to get back from the storm,
I understand.
so we were going to do this in partnership, but I told Richard, be safe, I'll be happy to take on this item and present it to the board. So this is an item we've been discussing, I think, with our finance committee since February of last year. And we moved this onto our budget, and it's actually in our fiscal year 23-24 budget is being an approved item. And we'll talk about that later when we get to the financial aspect of this. In summary, Seguasa has been using the same financial software since 2006, same vendor. There have been a few upgrades over the years. The last upgrade was in about 2011. And it's really nothing much more has been done since that time frame. Here we are in 2024. So I think you all can appreciate technology and what has occurred since 2011 as far as technology capability. So from a business standpoint, we saw that, and especially from a customer standpoint, it was time to upgrade our financial software. So what is that? That's our utility billing software. That's our back office software. That's our meter reading. That's our financials for purchase orders, for contracts, for paying invoices, online bill pay, work orders from the field. All that coordination goes into a financial system here. Helps us pay the bills, so on and so forth. So in order to bring us to modern times, if you will, with the technology and some of the features we didn't have with the current version of software, we decided to issue a request for information, an RFI, to the vendors on July 1st, 2023. And we sought proposals, and 3 vendors provided us with proposals. That is Harris Local Government. Harris Local Government is our current software provider. Edmunds GovTech and Tyler Technologies provided us with that information. So Seguasa staff took the opportunity to review all the proposals. We had a very detailed summary section and checklist of what we were looking for. Had to check the box. It was very detailed. Our finance director put that information together. Following that, we had the vendors come in and do actual hands-on demonstrations for a couple of hours for us, just to ensure that we were getting what we thought we were going to get, ease of use, those type of things, how the platform looked, what the customer interface looked like, so on and so forth. At the end of those trials and those demos, we basically came out with a recommendation that Tyler Technologies was basically the preferred vendor of choice for us out of the select vendors. You'll see at the bottom of page 42, We talk about some important details regarding the proposals. I'm not going to go through those all, but I will hit one of the bold items that talks about none of the proposals include timekeeping software or hardware due to the fact that the transition from the previously discussed prepaid to postpaid payroll is necessary before timekeeping software can be implemented. So what does that mean? That means that we really weren't in a position in July of last year to understand where we're going with the prepaid, postpaid payroll discussion, and we've had that discussion. Additionally, we were looking at a third-party vendor to provide us with that timekeeping add-on, if you will, once we got past this financial software implementation. What we have found out during the process here is that Tyler Technologies also provides a timekeeping module within their suite, which is nice. Anytime that you can keep something within the suite and not have to go to a third party, there's just tighter integration basically with all of your business systems. So we've identified some of those costs here within that fourth bullet item on page 43. And the cost for these features are listed below: some time clock devices, annual subscription, recurring costs, and setup and implementation. Moving on, and we can talk about that further, but moving on in terms of the schedule, the data conversion and the implementation of this software is about 12 to 18 months. It is very lengthy for the reason that it's when you go live, you want to make sure that you're right on as far as your utility process, your billing, of course, and everything. So we end up over a long period of time doing different models, bringing modules on place and testing them and running them. And at some point we'll have a go live date established. It's just, and something else that we do during this process is it isn't so much a one-to-one match from one software to another. What happens is a new software has a different way of doing things, has different rules set up and maybe some policies. So those have to be developed at the same time that you're developing or implementing the software. So I just want the board to know that it's quite a lengthy time that we would do this. So if we start this implementation later this month, the 1st of February, figure 12 to 18 months until we're complete. So well in the next fiscal year that we're working on this project. In terms of the financials, it is included in our approved FY 23-24 budget. At about $155,000 was the cost for this. Our cost is projected right now at $156,314, and we're requesting a contingency of $8,000, which is a 5% contingency along the way. So when you look at the bottom of page 43, you'll see we have a breakout for one-time costs, which include our implementation, setup, our project management, data conversion, hardware, for our total one-time cost of $103,499. And then further down below, we have recurring annual costs, total cost for year one of the contingency. So we're looking at in year one a not to exceed cost of $164,314. So the major push here is really that first year of implementation, that 12 to 18 months. And then you have a reoccurring cost of $52,000, which is your software maintenance, your licensing, your subscription across the organization. I think that's a good place to stop before we get into the attachment and the recommendation. So I'd be happy to answer as many questions as I can regarding the financial software and the implementation and what we're attempting to achieve here.
Why such the large one-time implementation cost?
Based on the amount of time it's going to take us to do the implementation. When you're looking at a 12 to 18 month period, that's a lot of time. That's a lot of resources that we actually have working with our team here, our staff over those months, those professionals, those computer resources basically to help us with the implementation.
Why such the large difference between the other vendors?
In terms of you're looking at the one-time implementation costs or
Yes,
the
sir.
annual
Yes, sir.
recurring costs?
So we're looking at $50,000 difference between one and $22,000 difference between another.
Right. So for example, the Edmunds GovTech, a one-time implementation cost of $54,000. They had less time involved in the project and one or two modules that weren't included that we wanted with the Tyler Technologies that caused that implementation period to be longer and more costly associated with that due to the hours associated with that.
So just for clarification, the one-time cost is the 103,499, that is representative of Tyler Technologies or? No.
Yes, so on page 43, is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
Yes, so we have a one-time cost that is related to Tyler Technology.
Okay. And do we have any idea of what the software for the timekeeping would look like, or that come later? Did they mention that?
We've taken a look at it and we have those costs identified at the top of the page of 43. It is something that could be folded in to the project at a certain point in time. And what we're recommending is that we get so far in the project here with the regular financials and to a point with the HR. This also includes an HR module suite, which is beneficial. We would then figure out and dovetail how this project, when the right time is to bring in that timekeeping project. And I did take a look at that, and the finance director and I looked at that during this discussion recently about when to implement this change on prepaid to postpaid. And when we started to look at the comments that we received from the employees and doing this sooner than later, we realized that even if we did this change now with the pre and the postpaid, we really were not in a position to enact this type of coordination, this technology, until we get further into this project later this year. And I apologize if I keep saying next year. I'm still thinking I'm standing in 2023, but later this fall, basically when we get into this, there may be an opportunity that September, October, November, we would be ready with this product to implement the timekeeping portion, which would be great. It'd be a great time to bring that all together. So when there is a change, we're able to capture that through this system versus trying to still do it on paper and waiting at some point to do an implementation. So
Okay.
it just seems to align better, quite honestly.
Thanks.
So on page 42, under the column that says total cost year one, Tyler Technologies, it says 152, 258. On the next page, it says total one-time cost year one is 103, 499. And then if you add the recurring annual cost to it, the total cost for year one is now up to 156, 314.
Right.
Why would there be recurring costs figured into the first year? It's the first year.
Well, I think that there's take off the recurring, if you will, and just put down the annual cost. Number one, there's going to be an annual cost associated with this contract. Associated 52,815, and then that's going to be a reoccurring annual cost in our contract. Normally it's a 3-year contract, so we've represented it as that's something that's going to be repeated versus a one-time cost. We wanted the board to appreciate that this is not a reoccurring project annually of $165,000. It's an implementation that is very expensive in your first year, and your dues and your fees and your software of your first year, but then it basically backs down to and lowers to just your reoccurring annual cost, if you will, as a subscription based, because that's basically what this is. This is software as a service, which is cloud-based.
So now we can't do the transition of the payroll in September.
Excuse me?
So now we can't do the transition of the payroll in September.
No, I think we're going to be in a good position to be able to do that in September of 2024, later this year.
Okay, because you
Yeah.
had just said September, October, November, and I'm like, wait a minute, September is what we voted on. I was wondering if this is going to delay that.
No, I think that's a realistic target, quite
I
honestly.
think it would make it better. It would make it an easier transition.
Because I just, if it's the first year, there should be no recurring cost estimated into the first year because the first year is not recurring.
That's a very good point. So anytime that you enter a contract, and let's say we have a 3-year contract here, there's going to be that initial cost when you sign on to that contract for the software, the subscription. So call it a subscription cost that you have to pay regardless, even as they're doing the implementation, because we are going to be using portions of this as we are testing it and using it along the way. That's the idea. So you do have that cost associated for that subscription that first year, and then you're going to have that reoccurring subscription cost. So I think that it might have been explained better than what it is here, but I hope the board understands that we're going to carry that cost annually
Right.
for the subscription for this financial software.
Yeah, because on page 42, it says the annual recurring cost for Tyler is 48,139. And then over here, it says 52,815, which is probably the timepiece added back in.
So let me explain that. So what you see on page 42 are the original proposal costs in that table. That's what was provided to us.
Mhm.
we took that information, we went through the process of doing the demos with them. And we said, we need to fine tune this. You did not add this in your proposal. We want you to add that. Add this module, take that module away. And instead of 1 year of history of our records, we want you to implement or roll back as far back as we have records for. So add in that cost instead of 1 year of data that you're going to bring over for utility billing history. Go back 10 years for us, please.
Okay, so
So that's part of that. So there was
a
your base proposal that was provided to
Okay.
us. We went through it. We said, okay, now give us that. We want the final proposal now that we've had an opportunity to really dial in the products that we want and we need for this. So,
Okay,
and one thing I like
with
to
the
add,
options,
pardon me?
with options.
Right, and one thing I like to add that I think is one of the really beneficial items to this software upgrade is that we will have the capability for real-time work management in our vehicles in the field related directly back to the software. So let me explain that. So there's a very busy time of the month for us called cutoff day. And I think the board's aware of what that is. When there's non-payment, our staff goes out and they have to turn meters off. And once the payment is made, they turn the meter back on. Right now, we have no connected systems to be able to do that. So it's a lot of paper-based that has to be done and back and forth with our team members. So our team members now in the field, once we implement this, will have real-time terminals that they'll be driving around with, so that when they'll get a notification or see on the screen, let's just say red dots, that they have to manage a meter and turn it off. And when that payment is made in the system, it actually turns to a green dot. So they will know that they
Turn it back on.
they can turn it back on. And in some cases, the red dots may turn to green before they even go to that site, which then saves us time in terms of our work management. So that's just one of the many benefits here, but that's part of the technology upgrade that you see across this entire platform. There's many other things that really help the back office system to make us more efficient.
Excellent.
Yeah, so just wanted to mention that one. That one's kind of near and dear to my heart when it comes to work management.
So is that like a tablet or is that an actual workstation that's in the vehicle?
It's a tablet that's mounted in the vehicle. Yeah,
Excellent.
so they'll be able to tap on that.
Does this company have an app where employees can clock in and out using their phone?
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
And it's GPS enabled to
Yes,
locations?
yes, that is true. It can be geo-fenced at the same time.
Okay.
And the board, I think, will be very pleased with the customer service interface and the capabilities, greater information for our customers now to access their accounts and get into the system and make payments. So, excuse me.
I see this as being a real big benefit
Oh, yeah,
to our customers for,
and employees.
and employees.
Mhm.
So if someone is at the last minute
Yeah,
paying the bill, they don't get cut off.
Yeah.
And if they do miss the cutoff date, then they get turned back on.
The
Without
work can
having,
get back faster.
yeah.
without having to do a paper trail, call someone and tell them to go.
Anything further from the board? Questions or comments?
Okay.
With emotion.
I'll make a motion.
I'll make a motion that we award the contract to Tyler Technologies for the financial software.
I'll second that motion.
All right. We have a motion by Mayor Jordan and I have a second by Commissioner Wade. Is there any discussion on the motion?
For the not to exceed amount of 164 for.
That's just technical. It might change.
It's got to be in the motion.
I can say they made the motion.
Well, that's the executive director's recommendation in writing.
Yeah.
You mean to modify that to say not to exceed 165,
Yeah.
164, 314?
Is there any further discussion on the motion? Would you consider that amended motion?
Yes.
Okay, so we have an amended motion. Do we have a second on the amended
Second.
motion? We have a second on the amended motion. That's Councilmember Daniel on the amended motion, second. Is there any discussion on the motion now at this time? If not, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it, motion carries. And now we're up to project updates.
Nope, Joe P.
Number 11.
Joe Pete,
Oh,
11.
okay, I'm sorry.
This sheet,
I got the wrong sheet.
got the wrong sheet.
I got the wrong sheet. Yeah,
There you go.
11 is our Joe P lift station pump maintenance, sole source vendor repairs. And for the background, the Joe P Road Sanitary Sewer Lift Station located near the intersection of Joe P Road and State Highway 15 in the city of Creedmoor is a major sanitary sewer pump station serving customers throughout the city of Creedmoor. The pump station uses two 125 horsepower pumps to pump sewage to a booster station located near the intersection of Joe P Road and East Line Station Road. The 225 horsepower pumps were installed many years ago and have had multiple maintenance repairs over the years. The existing Joe P Road Sanitary Sewer Lift Station is scheduled for demolition following the installation of the new Joe P Road Sanitary Sewer Lift Station associated with the I-85 Sanitary Sewer System Improvement Project. On December 12th, 2023, a rain event caused power interruptions and power issues that affected both 125 horsepower pumps at the Joe P pump station. With the assistance of a vendor, Pearson Pump Sales and Service Incorporated, Saguaso utility crews removed the two pumps from the pump station for analysis and a cost estimate for repair. Prior to the pumps being removed, a rental pump was placed in service to manage the sewer flows. Crews will install the refurbished pumps as soon as practical. Due to the age of the pumps, staff anticipates the need to replace these pumps with new ones in the future. The new 125 horsepower pumps are expensive and will take time to order and receive. Therefore, it's not prudent at this time to order new pumps. It's, I guess, analysis is more cost effective to repair these since we're going to demolish that pump station anyway.
That is correct, and I'll speak to that further in just a moment. I think it's appropriate at this time. I'd like to introduce Joel Coates. Joel, would you please come up? Joel, I'll have him introduce himself in a minute here. Joel was just promoted this week to project manager, working in our engineering department, and I wanted this opportunity this evening. I know a lot of you had an opportunity to meet Joel before the meeting. Some of you did not. So I wanted Joel to come up and just introduce himself and have him tell us about his experience, where he's come from, just briefly, and then we'll get into this item, which I'm sure he could talk a half hour on this topic. We won't allow him this evening, but he's had a lot of maintenance time on this. So Joel, can you just introduce yourself for a moment, please?
Like Scott mentioned, my name is Joel Coates. I've been doing this type of utilities since 05, where I started with City of Oxford. As a meter reader, moved up utilities, system crew leader. And then in 2015, I joined Saguaso. After I did that, I was utilities for quite a few years and crew leader. And then most recently on supervisor for the utilities. But even before this, this is what my dad kind of trained me doing for my entire life is some kind of construction. So I have my hands in just about any kind of construction you ever think of at one point in time. So,
Welcome
Yeah.
to your new
Nice to meet
office.
Yeah, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Joel's gonna help me tremendously, and I thank the board for approving this position last year when we made some changes from utility engineer to project manager, identified how important this project would, or this position would be for us. So Joel obviously will hit the ground running today, which is great. Now, on normal days, you hear all this weather.
That's what worries me about this pump situation right now.
He's on the outside
The rain
doing
events.
this. And when you thank the utility crew members for these water main breaks in the wintertime, Joel was always a lead out there doing that work for us. So he's going to be a great asset here. So, all right. So again, in December, the rain event, the electrical problems, Joel was part of that. Did a lot of the assessment on what needed to be done here and the alignment with Pearson Pumps to get this in place. We have a brand new rental pump out there that's functioning well. I've talked to all the supervisors before the meeting started, both at the water plant, the wastewater plant, and utilities. And so far, my phone hasn't blown up, so I think we're okay for now. So we'll get past this board meeting. As the chair mentioned, Joe Pete Pump Station existing is going to be demolished in the future based on the I-85 sanitary sewer project. We're going to move a new regional pump station, Joe Pete new 2.0, further west and west of the bridge on Joe Pete Road. So eventually this one will be demolished. So we're in a position now where we find it most cost effective in the next 3 years before that occurs, 3 to 4 years, to just do the repairs on these pumps. Both pumps for around $30,000. Joel and I were talking today that you could look at $45,000 to $50,000 a piece for new pumps. So we're not interested in the new pumps at this point. We may have to purchase a new pump in the future. We hope that we don't in the next 3 years as we're getting ready for the changeover of this project. If we do, we do, and I'm sure we can use that pump somewhere else in the system. So we've got some procurement information on here for you. We look at this vendor is identified Pearson Pump Sales and Service as what we call a sole source vendor. So we don't solicit additional proposals for this type of work, and this is based on their experience, their quick response time, the pump housing specifications, the pump types, the pump configurations, and the relationship to supporting operational systems, the variable frequency drives, electronics, so on and so forth. So we have a single proposal in front of the board this evening, and it eclipses my spending authority, which is maxed at $30,000. So I got this item in front of the board this evening, and I'm asking for a 10% contingency as well on top of this, bringing the total cost to $33,583. So the company already has the pumps. They've got them on the bench. I think it's some electrical rewinding that they're doing to the components so that we can get those back into service. So if the board approves this evening, we'll issue a purchase order tomorrow morning and we'll continue the work. I don't have an estimate right now on the time to get this work back to us. Maybe that's something Joel can provide me with that answer if the board is interested in that, but I know it's going to be ASAP. Let's just put it that way.
So the question I have on that, you said excluding local state taxes. So is that going to exceed the 33,583?
When we ask for the authorization, normally we keep the taxes separate from that approval. We don't account for that at this point of the approval. That's the add-on.
I'll make a motion. We approve the 33,583 not to exceed.
We have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
We have a second. Is there any discussion on the motion? Hearing no discussion, then we'll go to the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed likewise. Ayes have it, motion carries. Now back on track. Project updates, number 12.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I had some engineering updates I wanted to present in a slide presentation this evening, but the board secretary that was going to assist me is not here this evening, but I'll tap dance just the same.
She hasn't trained you how to run the slide.
She even took her computer with her. She didn't even bring it back this
She
morning.
didn't want you to steal her thunder.
That's right. We'll put that promise out there for next month. But as the board is aware, I do a monthly update report, and you received your last report, I think December 22nd, before the holidays. And this report provides you with a very good summary of everything that we're working on. So I would ask the board if there's any questions that you have on any projects, on anything that we're working on, I'd be happy to answer that based on anything that's in this report. If there's something outside this report, be happy to answer that as well.
Anyone have any questions?
No?
Very good. Thank you.